This is Daniel Poppy, host of How to Write Good. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
I'm the Greg.
And I am Dave Show.
We host the Greg and Dave Show on Public House Media.
Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out our show, The Greg and Dave Show, where we talk about strange, bizarre, and sometimes just downright quirky news stories that you may not have heard about.
A new show comes out every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And hey, thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Throughout history, the course of sports has been shaped by one thing: the fans.
From the moments you never dreamed of.
Wolpoff has saved the USA's life in this World Cup!
Hall, the runner! Loose ball! It's good! Gonzaga! The slipper still fits!
To the moments that still give you nightmares.
Behind the bag! It gets through Buckner! Here comes Knight and the Mets win it!
He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl! Brady has his fifth!
Through the good and the bad, fans have helped change the games we watch and the players we love.
They may not be the most logical people.
You are a factory of sadness! I'll see you Sunday.
But they know their teams better than anybody.
They'll blow in the ninth!
You may not always see them, but you know where to find them.
After all, there's nothing quite like the view from the cheap seats.
Broadcasting is part of the Public House Media Network.
Grab a chair and enjoy all there is in
The cheap seats.
That's right, everybody. Welcome in the cheap seats on this Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018. As it's the best view because, well, it's the only place where you can see absolutely everything, including, above the clouds, all the way from the cheap seats. That's the fun part about it. He's Max Wolpoff. I'm Christian Heimall here joining you again on this Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018. A lot of fun stuff to actually get to here. We've got some Major League Baseball. There's some NFL news. Patriots fans can stop freaking out. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then, of course, the NBA and NHL playoffs, which is where, Max, we will begin, because I know this is a very stressful time of year for you, so instead of making you wait till the end of the show to talk about the Capitals, we'll just get it, kind of out of the way early. We'll talk that stuff. So,
woo, thanks a bunch. I'll have my heart attack now, so you won't have me the rest of the show. Thanks a lot.
Of course, don't forget, we're going to have our Wild Wednesdays towards the end of the show, our craziest topics that we found in sports. But I want to get to a couple of the NHL games we have going on tonight, because it is NHL playoff time, and it is, again, as we've discussed multiple times on this show, whether it be myself and Max, Jeff and Max, myself and Jeff, this is the best, time of the year. And you got two series tonight that are kind of interesting here. I'm not sure really where the momentum lies. I think it might actually lie with both road teams in tonight's series. Game 3 for the Bruins and the Lightning tied up 1-1 after Tampa Bay went off against Boston at home on Monday. And then Vegas holding off San Jose and getting an overtime winner from William Karlsson on Monday night to take a 2-1 series lead. Max, your thoughts so far on what the road teams in tonight's game, the chances they have here in for Vegas pulling closer towards the conference finals and towards Tampa at least taking an advantage?
Well, let's begin with Vegas. As with everything, I don't understand how this team is A, this good, B, still winning, and C, finding ways to defeat teams despite clearly, on paper, never should have been able to win 40 games. Vegas should not be a thing. Expansion teams should suck. They should suck for about 5 years. Then everyone starts to pity them. Then everyone starts to like them. Then in about 10 to 15 years, they start to get respectable. Then they draft their franchise player. Then they make the playoffs. Then they get contender status. And then they maybe make the cup final. And who knows, maybe you win. Vegas is, screw all that. We're going to run to the cup final this year, and we're going to break everyone's heart while we're doing it. This team is so fast. Watching puck-moving defense, watching the forward core get back and forecheck and back check, watching Marc-Andre Fleury basically in a time machine and pretending that he's a younger self from 2009. I'm basically watching a movie, and I'm consistently surprised with how Vegas performs because my brain is yet to even adjust to them being an NHL team.
This from the kid who, what year did the Caps become a thing? Oh, that's right, all the way in the 70s, 76.
The 70s,
so.
And yeah, they didn't win a road game until March of their first season. They didn't win their 10th franchise game until their second season. The Capitals stunk their first year.
Well, you have to remember, this is the one thing that a lot of people forget. They changed the rules of the expansion draft this past summer.
I didn't forget that. That's the only reason Vegas is this good.
Right, exactly. And it should be noted with that before it used to be that teams like, for instance, Pittsburgh would say you're only able to draft from these 3 players, or these X amount of players. You're only allowed to draft these guys. So Vegas wouldn't have had much of a choice. What changed was they basically flipped it and said, okay, you can have anybody except these X amount of guys. And, of course, the Penguins are going to protect Crosby and Malkin and Kunis, and they're important, and Matt Murray because of how he played last year, which then gave Vegas the opportunity to take a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, back-to-back 2-time Stanley Cup champion in Marc-Andre Fleury, who has had, as you mentioned, an absolute career resurgence. It's what's allowed Vegas to take a John Merrill on the defensive side of things, Derek Eklund, William Karlsson. It's what's allowed them to have this type of talent. That being said, as we've seen in many other sports, just because you're talented doesn't mean you're good. And you got to give a lot of credit, I firmly believe, has to go to guys like Karlsson, guys like Eklund, guys like Cody Eakin, even Grabowski, and, of course, Gerard Gallant. I mean, their coach has been phenomenal this year. And this, his first year with the Knights, of course, had some rough goes with the Florida Panthers in his career. But still, I mean, this is just absolutely incredible to see what they're doing. And I looked at that game on Monday, and I'm sitting there watching this, and like, all right, San Jose takes a 1-0 lead. First off, that intermission hype video for San Jose might actually be better than Vegas. I don't know.
I mean, the video production team for San Jose, they do a fantastic job. Vegas kind of stole the thunder, but San Jose's really got it going on. Nashville, too. The West Coast is made with those video guys.
Yeah, I was ready to run to San Jose and strap up and play. But what was impressive was as soon as, like, within a blink of an eye, it's San Jose's at 1-0, and all of a sudden it's 3-1 Vegas. Like, just like that. They score so quickly, and that's what makes them so dangerous to me, is when you've got a goaltender who has been staked to a lead, he becomes a little bit more calm, he's able to make a little bit more quicker saves, and you've got a guy who's won multiple Stanley Cups. You're a dangerous team when you can get a lead like that, and Vegas just went out of nowhere. Of course, it obviously went into overtime, but still, to be able to do that is what I find insanely impressive about this team.
Now, Christian, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
What is the playoff save percentage of Marc-Andre Fleury?
Like this playoff or his career?
This current playoff.
96?
You are on the button.
Ooh, look at me. And I don't and I'll be 100%, I don't even have it pulled up. I'm not even cheating.
96% of shots that he has faced, he has stopped. That is comical. That is incredibly stupid high. Nobody does that. That just doesn't happen. It never happens.
Yeah, he's been unreal. But that's been this whole season too for him. I mean, again, we've talked about this a couple of different times, but that's been what is so amazing. You look at him on Monday night, 39 saves on 42 shots. So far this postseason, as you mentioned, even this year. I mean, that's the weird part. This year, Max, a 93% save percentage. His career average is 91. His career average goals against his career goals against on average is 256. His this year in 2017, 2018 is 224, almost a whole quarter less, which is insane to think of when you consider the career that he has had.
Which is crazy, and I understand Vegas doesn't have a captain with a C on their jersey, but let's face it, Marc-Andre Fleury is kind of like Henrik Lundqvist with New York. They're kind of a de facto leader in that room for certain. And if the NHL rules were different, maybe he would wear that C.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. So Vegas goes to try to make it 3-1 here tonight, and that is a game that, San Jose is going to have some issues here. They're really going to have some issues, but they're going to need to try to get this one. Otherwise, it's back to Nashville with a chance to, or excuse me, back to Vegas with a chance to close it out.
What parties in the Western Conference are we talking about here?
We're going to get there eventually. Don't worry. We're going to be talking to Vegas, Nashville very, very soon, I believe.
I don't think the NHL press corps is ready for a Nashville-Vegas series.
Oh,
I don't think
the greatest thing ever.
Oh, no one's ready. The press corps barely survived Nashville in the Stanley Cup final. Yeah. Nashville against Vegas in a playoff series? People aren't ready.
It would be like if Vancouver still had a basketball team and it was Vancouver-Toronto in the NBA Finals. It'd be amazing.
Heavens, no. The Canadian basketball people would never be ready for that.
Nope, no shot.
It would tear the country apart. Canada, we had a good run. Sorry, just split out the middle. Just take each side of Manitoba. We had a good run. That was it. It's done.
So now we'll switch over and we'll head up to Boston, where Tampa Bay, they kind of put the hammer down on Monday night at home after the Bruins stole one in Game 1, able to come back with a nice 4-2 win over the Bruins and tied up at 1 game apiece. I know that you guys were last week. Both you and Jeff said Toronto would win Game 7, number 1.
We were both totally.
But you also both said it wouldn't matter considering who they were playing in the second round. Surprised at all that Boston was able to steal one in Tampa Bay?
No, and most of that is because of the top line of Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, and Patrice Bergeron. Those three in combination are three of the best players in hockey when they play together, 100% for certain. Tampa Bay does not have a line that can match them on a consistent basis on defense. However, at home, especially in that second game when John Cooper the head coach had a chance to look over the matchup and figure out what he wanted to do, he found a matchup that he liked and he found a way to limit that offense and that firepower. In the first game, I think Boston was riding a very good high, and they took the momentum from a big Game 7 win and translated it into a better win on the road. But last night, I don't see a team taking both games from Tampa in the road half. I just cannot see that.
Especially when Tampa Bay comes out and they're out shooting you 10-0 in the first period all of a sudden. Like, Boston didn't get its first shot on goal until 9 minutes in?
No, 14 minutes for on goal.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
You got guys diving all over the place, blocking shots. I absolutely loved it. That was the type of hockey that we were looking for. But, of course, obviously the Bruins trying to take an advantage here at home now, where they've been pretty solid. But the thing that's been a little intriguing to me when I watch a series like this is always, when I look at things like this, it's power play. And I know, again, it's a weird thing to say, but like, special teams is so important. No matter what, and the power play is exactly that. And watching that game on Monday night between the Lightning and the Bruins, the amount of chances that Boston gave Tampa Bay, not just to be on the power play, but then actually during the power play, had me a little concerned, and it made me start to wonder if maybe because of that 7-game war with Toronto, if they were a little, they started to lose their legs a little bit, especially on the road.
I think part of that is because, again, special teams are important in the playoffs, but that's really because most of the playoffs are played 5-on-5, even strength. It's very even, most of the time. When it does come to those power play chances, you need a unit that will convert on a consistent basis. It's a small sample size every time, but the top power play units typically in the playoffs run about 30 to 40%. You need that extra efficiency because when you get those chances, you're not going to get another one, or at least not for a while. You need to finish. Boston does have finishers, but Tampa, when they throw Stamkos and Kucherov at you, oh boy, are you screwed.
Yeah, that's almost not fair to be able to do that. And then, of course, you got guys like Ryan Callahan. You've got Braden Point, who played well on Monday night. There's just so many different places that they can come from.
You could say, Christian, that Braden was on point.
Oh boy, there it is. The first one, the first punt of the day. First one of the day for Max Wolpoff.
Coffee's good this morning. I am feeling it.
But anyway, so I mean, like good for Tampa Bay though to come back though after getting smacked 6-2 at home in Game 1, and then they rebound with a 4-2 win, and now they got to go on the road and try to take a series lead against the Bruins in Boston. That game coming up, of course, tonight, as is Vegas and San Jose. Couple of other series going on in the NHL. We'll touch on those in a little bit, as well as the NBA playoffs, and if the Sixers should actually really be worried about the Celtics or not, or should we just all sit back and enjoy what is going to be the future of the NBA that we are currently watching. Max Wolpoff along with Christian Heimall right here on the Public House Media Network. You're in the cheap seats.
This is Katie, co-host of Coffee with Keith and Katie here on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Coffee with Keith and Katie, where we talk about the adventures of our daily lives and relationship. A new show comes out every Tuesday and Friday at 8:30 p.m. Central. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Coffee with Keith and Katie. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Welcome back into Cheap Seats. Christian Heimall here with you on this Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018. Joined with my, what do they call it now? The blue line? Is that what the top line's called now, Max? Is that the new fun jargon?
The top line is the blue line? No, that's the top pairing. That's like the defense.
Oh, okay. My blue line partner then. What I was going for was working.
Yeah, you kind of were there, but I pushed in the rebound on that one.
There we go. Yeah, I allied you. There we go. Perfect. All right.
Awesome.
I like it. All right, Max Wolpoff and Christian Heimall here with you on this Wednesday, May 2nd. In the cheap seats, talking NHL, NBA playoffs in a little bit as well. We're getting into some Major League headlines and, of course, our wild and wacky Wednesday stories. We just touched on, of course, the two games you got going on tonight. In Vegas, San Jose, and Boston, Tampa Bay. But there are two other series going on. They went up yesterday. Interesting ones in terms of course, you've got the huge storylines with Pittsburgh and Washington, which, of course, Max has been read bedtime stories about Pittsburgh and Washington, and will read bedtime stories to his children about Pittsburgh and Washington because that's what you do.
And this son is exactly how Daddy developed his problems in life because with a hockey game. You see now turn your lights off, go to bed.
Exactly. Now the other one though, the other series between Winnipeg and Nashville has some fun because again, much like Boston did to Tampa Bay, Winnipeg kind of stole one on the road there with Nashville, and they almost stole two, if not for an impressive goal in Game 2 in overtime from Kevin Fiala. I always mess up his name. I don't know how I do it. Fiala. There it is. Yep, from Kevin Fiala. And they were able to head into Winnipeg still tied up at 1. But this Western Conference matchup, this one right here between Nashville and Winnipeg is interesting because much like Nashville was last year, Winnipeg is this year. Kind of that small market team that a lot of people are maybe not necessarily rooting for because they're kind of a pest at the moment, and then it'll take a little bit for them to actually be there because it was just, 4 years ago that they were still in Atlanta? It was still the Thrashers 4 or 5 years ago?
I think they were the Thrashers not very long ago.
Yeah. So you've got two of the more recent expansion teams outside of Vegas playing here and actually playing really well, which is kind of exciting for not only the fan bases, but for, I think, hockey in general, and especially when they're going to be competitive like this.
Okay, so 2011 was their first year as the new Winnipeg.
It's been 7 years.
So it was still within this decade that they were still called the Atlanta Thrashers. That's just crazy. This decade's been weird for sports.
But you got these competitive teams, and I mean, and again, one of the main reasons why I love the Stanley Cup playoffs over anything else is the fact of the home ice atmospheres, and there is no better home ice atmosphere than Nashville. From the cars getting smashed to by the way, the jet that they brought in for Winnipeg this year, which was awesome.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. To what happened on Sunday night was just scary. Like, I get it. Okay, chugging a beer, I get it. Signaling a catfish that the game is over and tossing that, but drinking a beer out of a catfish, oh my God.
The Titans
kissing a catfish, it's just, ugh.
The Titans' offensive line, they did the same thing last year. The same person didn't have a shirt. Marcus Mariota still looked awkward as always.
Uh-huh.
It's Nashville. Nashville's coming together around the Predators because the Predators are A, exciting, B, very good, and C, ready to contend. Mm-hmm. Tennessee has had a contender for a championship in a while. Never mind just Nashville. The state has not had a contender for a while since what? Peyton Manning led the Volunteers?
No. Well, first off, Peyton Manning was awesome at Tennessee. Secondly, Kevin Dyson. Kevin Dyson and the Super Bowl.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I do apologize.
The greatest show on turf. And if Kevin Dyson was about, had about a 5-inch longer wingspan, the Titans would have a Super Bowl.
All right, hey, you know something? That's just my limited knowledge of Tennessee professional and colleague.
It's been like 17 years though. So, but you're absolutely right. I mean, and this is and being from the area down there and knowing and watching this team as bad as they were, 8-10 years ago, to see them do this is awesome, and to see the city rally around them like this is awesome. So you've got two markets that are, one in Nashville that is finally falling head over heels in love with hockey, and one in Winnipeg that is finally falling back in love with hockey. Meanwhile, in the Eastern Conference, you've got two teams that are relearning how to hate each other, if they didn't already, with Pittsburgh and Washington. And this one, Max, is just one of those things. Like, I kept seeing so many tweets the other day during Game 2 about, like, oh, well, he'll get suspended. And it's just one of those things. Like, it's so strange to watch Washington and Pittsburgh get together because you never know what call is going to go which way.
And more often than not, because of that coin flip, it's almost always come up heads. It's almost come up for Pittsburgh, at least if you ask a Washington fan. So having two things go Washington's way after Game 2. Number one, the Patrick Hornqvist air quote goal that was not a goal. And two, Tom Wilson not getting suspended. There's some positive feeling. There's a sense that, maybe the fix isn't in. Maybe this is actually going to be a fair fight this time. But what was more impressive after Game 2 was the fans of the Capitals actually walking to the National Portrait Gallery steps just across the street from Capital One Arena, because that's where the Penguins fans party after every single win in Washington. They go to those steps and they chant just stupid things like, "You can't beat us, shut up." Just,
You gonna be okay?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, I'm great. Oh, I am just fine, Christian. I'm fine.
I know
Thank
you
you
are.
for on my well-being, but I am fine.
It's okay. It wasn't a goal. That's all that matters. It wasn't a goal.
If you don't believe that it wasn't a goal, I'm going to tell you right now, go to YouTube and look up the Sam Bennett goal. And Sam Bennett, I know, Calgary Flames, you're wondering, what does this have to do with anything? The NHL has a review system where you can't totally tell whether the puck is totally across the line from the outside view. You have to see it from the overhead. The overhead view overturned Sam Bennett's supposed goal the same way that the overhead view was blocked by Braden Holtby when he went to make the save, and thus the NHL couldn't prove Patrick Hornqvist's goal crossed the line. Therefore, it wasn't a goal. They couldn't prove it.
It's called inconclusive. It has to be with inconclusive. So, and it wasn't, and it's the right call. So,
if you can't prove it, it didn't happen. Take it.
Exactly. Now, this brings us up to our poll question here, and we'll get into this more in the NBA because I firmly believe that this happens. But you can go to our Facebook page, The Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Check out our poll question. Check out all the other old shows that we used to have, that we've done so far this year, and all that fun stuff. But whether it's from power play standpoint, Max, keep holding on to the whistle, blowing the whistle, whether it comes down to how how often they go to replay monitors, how much time it takes to figure out a replay. There's been a lot of questions, and this is maybe more so in the NBA, which we'll touch on here in a second. But does the officiating change when it comes time for the postseason? Do the officials change how they officiate a game when it's the playoffs? Do you firmly believe that or not?
I do, and I can't seem to find any evidence that says that it doesn't change. The rules themselves don't change, but the amount of rules that are firmly enforced as they might be, like a couple nights ago in the Bruins series, Marchand was slashed on a breakaway in his hands. It wasn't called, but that's been the standard all season. If you slash someone on the gloves, it's called. That's been the standard the whole season. He wasn't called here, and he had a breakaway with a chance to tie the game. Egregious. It was an error. It was missed. However, there have been so many instances of this in playoff hockey and in basketball where fouls aren't called, where free throws are taking up more time because you're just running into more problems. And then there's the replays. Oh, dear goodness, the replays. The last thing I want to see is someone pulling out an iPad and needing to get out the reading glasses to see frame by frame whether or not someone stepped out of bounds or whether or not the puck was a centimeter across a goal line.
Yeah.
Get your act together. Figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Listen, this is one of those things that really bothers me when it comes time for postseason, and I see it a lot more in college basketball. You know, working in college basketball for the last 10 years.
That's even worse.
Yeah, when we get into conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament, the officiating, it's like the officials just aren't there, or they're almost there too much. And that's one of those things that really kind of bugs me. And I saw it a lot. I'll tell you what, I saw it a lot in the NBA on Monday night in the Celtics and Sixers game 1 of their Eastern Conference semifinals. It seemed as though the officials stopped calling things. It's like they just stopped officiating. They weren't caring. They weren't going to go too crazy in terms of blowing the whistle. I know that both teams ended up shooting an insane amount of free throws because it's basketball. It's the NBA. That's what happens. But you look at it, and I don't understand how officiating changes like this. And you're right. The rules don't change, but the way that they are enforced, the officiating, is what makes it change. Both teams on Monday night for the Celtics and Sixers, which, by the way, Celtics go up 1-0 with that big home win over Philadelphia, a team that a lot of people are favoring to win. Philadelphia shot 35 free throws. The Celtics shot 19, excuse me. So it's just strange how it changes. It's almost as if, though, Max, they want to let the players decide the outcome, but at the same time, they want to ensure that they're part of the action, which is wrong.
Okay, both of those justifications are inherently flawed. Letting the players decide the game and letting the players hack and whack each other, that's not healthy for the game. Over officiating and over regulating, that's not healthy for the game either.
Right. And I look at it in that first series with the Pacers and the Cavaliers. You remember LeBron James, the goaltend that wasn't a goaltend?
Yeah, that was a goaltend, but nobody called it.
But they didn't go to the monitor. That's my point, is that they wanted to let the players decide it. But when you have you have the right, you have the responsibility to officiate the game properly, they didn't do it there. So I think that officiating changes in the postseason wrongly in that sense. It's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like the players are trying to show out and have their best game, and then the officials are trying to have their best game too. But the best way to be an official, nobody needs to hear about the officiating. There should never be a comment about it. That's how you know it's a well-officiated game, is when nobody makes a comment about it.
And I think the only times that referees are mentioned in a good light is when they have many, many years of solid work where nobody mentions a bad thing.
Yeah, and it's usually at the start of the broadcast. It's usually like...
And here are the officials for tonight's game.
Yeah, like the Final Four. And here are the officials for tonight's game. Eddie Corbett, he's refereed 8 Final Fours and 3 national championship games. And that's the last we hear of him. That's the right way to go. That's the right way to be an official. But we almost never see that because it's, that should be a flop. That's not a foul. We always criticize it so much. And maybe it's because of us. Maybe it's because we scrutinize it so much that we actually believe that the officiating changes during the postseason. Or maybe it's the fact that it actually does change.
Heck, it might be an illusion. It might be that the games matter that much more to us, and therefore our attention to detail as fans is just a little hypersensitive to something like a missed call.
Exactly. But we'll figure all that stuff out. You guys give us your opinion as well. Does officiating change in the postseason, no matter the sport? I mean, even in baseball, does the strike zone change when it comes time for the World Series? Are umpires going to be more likely to give a tie to the runner and that kind of stuff? Or maybe, whatever the possible outcome could be, sway it one way or the other based off the postseason as opposed to the regular season. The Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Go to our Facebook page. Check us out. When we come back, we'll get into the NBA playoffs. We'll also touch on some highlights, some news and notes from around the NFL as well as Major League Baseball. I'm Christian Heimall. He's Max Wolpoff. You're in the Cheap Seats on the Public House Media Network.
I'm the Greg.
And I am Dave Show.
We host the Greg and Dave Show on Public House Media.
Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out our show, The Greg and Dave Show, where we talk about strange, bizarre, and sometimes just downright quirky news stories that you may not have heard about.
A new show comes out every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And hey, thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Before the thunder, 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 feel the thunder.
Little Imagine Dragons waking you up here on this May 2nd, 2018, this Wednesday morning. It's hump day, folks. We're halfway to the weekend. It's okay. It'll be fun. Hump day. I still love that commercial. I don't care what anybody says, Max. I don't care. It's one of the best ones ever.
It's one of those commercials that you may not even remember what it was advertising, but you just remember the message. You remember the commercial. And as an advertiser, sometimes all you're fighting for is just memorability.
Exactly. It's like the Nike MVP puppets when they had Kobe Bryant and LeBron James.
Yeah, at least for positive things of how you're being remembered. Some ads are remembered for how awful they are.
Exactly. Did you ever see the spoof the Dallas Mavericks did on that?
Yes.
Oh, yes, with Dirk Nowitzki?
Oh, so good. They
Phenomenal.
did a great job with that.
Very, very well done. All right, speaking of Thunder and Nowitzki, it's the NBA playoffs as well, even though neither of those are actually there. So never mind. Ignore that segue. Christian Heimall, Max Wolpoff here with you.
Awful pivot.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That was a bad pivot. That was a travel, which never gets called in the NBA, which is perfect. So it didn't actually happen. I do want to bring up the Thunder, though, because John and I talked about this on Monday. Our poll question on Monday was who was more likely to leave Oklahoma City this summer, Paul George, who is a free agent, or Carmelo Anthony, who would have to give up $28 million and opt out of his current contract to go somewhere else. Surprisingly, Max, a lot of our listeners, 60%, believe that Carmelo Anthony is more likely to leave Oklahoma City than Paul George, when Melo would give up $28 million to take a lot less money and go play elsewhere.
I mean, look, Oklahoma City had a good team this year, but they did not have a good enough structure beyond their big three. And when two of those big three, George and Anthony, did not show out for that elimination game against the Jazz, boy, was it bad. It exposed the Thunder for not being a complete team.
Yep.
Whereas if you look at another team like, let's say, I don't know, the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans played good team basketball and swept out a decent Trailblazers team in the process.
Yeah.
When you come down to it, sometimes you need a good team around you. You can't just rely on your three-headed monster.
Now, listen, I've made the argument that it's Russell Westbrook not knowing how to play with these guys. There's a reason why James Harden left, while Kevin Durant left, why these guys are going to end up leaving. But you're right. There needs to be a structure, and I think, honestly, more of it maybe comes from the head coach and Billy Donovan than it does anything else.
And when you have a star player who will consistently get you into the playoffs in the NBA, more than often your job's pretty safe. I'm not seeing Billy Donovan on the hot seat here, at least not now.
No, I don't see him on the hot seat, but at the same time, I mean, you got to wonder who it is, whose fault it is that these three guys, three tremendous players, can't figure it out together. And why? Like, I look at the common theme again. The common theme to me has been Russell Westbrook. He and Kevin Durant couldn't get it done. Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Serge Ibaka, when he was playing his best, couldn't get it done. There's something about playing with Russell Westbrook that just, it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know why they're not this good anymore, especially when you consider Durant winning a championship in Golden State, Harden, who might win a championship this year with Houston. It's just, I don't know. There's a common theme that comes back to Russell Westbrook for me, but he's going to have to figure it out this summer, as are the Thunder. Don't forget to go to our Facebook page, The Cheap Seats by Public House Media. You can check out the results of all our other poll questions. You can also vote on today's poll question, which is, do you think officiating changes during the postseason? Max and I both agree that it does. It 100% change when the playoffs come around. And Max, these playoffs are going to get really interesting because you've got a team, two teams that kind of limped into the next round in Boston, literally Boston because of how injured they are, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland's going to continue to struggle. I don't care, what the result was in last night in Game 1 against the Raptors. I don't care, but they're going to struggle so tremendously because they don't have, as you said, you need structure when you have a team. They don't have a team. They have LeBron James and 4 guys off the street right now.
Honestly, that's been what they've needed. But, okay, for Toronto, this is your shot.
Yeah.
You have Cleveland, big brother to your little brother. They push you around, they beat you down, and it seems like every single year when you run into them, they always beat you. This is Toronto's boogeyman. Do you have what it takes this year, in this year where you have a star coach who is very likely to win Coach of the Year, you have a fantastic core around Lowry and DeRozan, this is your shot. You have to do it now. If you don't knock out Cleveland now, oh boy, Cleveland's not going to look the same next year, and you're not going to look the same next year. Toronto has to do it this year. This has to be. There's pressure on the Raptors here. They've got to win now.
Yep. A lot of pressure on them. A lot of pressure on, obviously, the Rockets and the Warriors to be able to do that. I wonder how much pressure, though, the other Eastern Conference semifinal has been put on Philadelphia because of how injured Boston is, because of how well they ended the regular season, winning 16 in a row. Because, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are the future of the NBA. I wonder how much pressure was put on them because it wasn't even close on Monday night in Game 1 against the Celtics in Boston. It wasn't even close. And the Celtics are a team that just went through a 7-game war and are, by the way, without 3 of their top 5 players.
And maybe if you include Jaylen Brown, 4.
I was including Jaylen Brown.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of Tice for some reason in there, but
no.
But
yeah, I mean, without Jaylen Brown on Monday, that's the other part. And somehow the Celtics found a way to really disrupt things. And I think a lot of that, I know the NBA is a players' league, but Brad Stevens has been tremendous for this Celtics squad as their head coach and making them do this. And if the Celtics advance past Philadelphia, it is solely because of Brad Stevens and how he's been able to game plan.
And Brad Stevens, again, we go back to the argument of having a system. He has that system. The Celtics brought him in from the college ranks knowing how well he worked with a non-super program. Yeah, they were a major program in a major conference, but they weren't a superstar program. But yeah. Butler always seemed to be there. They always seemed to have a game plan, and they always gave a good run even when they lost in the NCAA tournament. That was because of Stevens' system, and that was because of how he handled the players he has. This is about like it is in college. He's got a bunch of non-superstar players going up against superstar talents on the opposite side. He has to get the best out of them every single night, and he's been doing that.
He has. I mean, and now it helps when, it seemed like the Sixers goes 5 for 26 from the three-point line in that game, shoot 19% from 3. J.J. Redick was 2 of 7. Dario Saric was 0 for 4. They were just bad from the three-point line on Monday night. But
the only one who seemed to be knocking anything down from there was Joel Embiid.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, 2 of 5 from three-point land, 31 points, 13 rebounds. We all know how nasty he is. But, Max, we kind of talked about it a little bit off the air, but these two teams, and for kids who can't remember, God, that makes me sound old. I remember, obviously, the last time these two teams met in the playoffs. I remember the last couple of times these two teams met in the playoffs, the Iverson days. the Iverson-Antoine Walker rivalry. But Philadelphia and Boston is such a historic matchup in the playoffs. And we have a shot here, Max, as we're watching. This is going to be similar for the next few years because of guys like Simmons, Embiid, Saric, Covington. And then you look on the other side with the Celtics, Jason Tatum balling out, Jaylen Brown balling when he gets there, Marcus Smart, Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward when they return healthy. This right here, this series that we're seeing is the future, and because guys like Hayward and Irving aren't playing in this series, the future is only going to get better.
You even forgot Terry Rozier.
Yeah, my boy, Louisville.
Yeah, you forgot about the man that scored nearly 30 points against the 76ers in Game 1.
Yeah, he showed out 7 of 9 from 3.
The Celtics 76ers series this year, this is basically like the first installment of a great series. You're like, okay, I watched the first movie, the sequel better be better. The sequel and the trilogy and the subsequent quadrilogy are going to be good. They're going to be good. The Celtics 76ers are teams of the future in the East with how young they are and how well they play together. The Cavaliers may not be this good for a long time, depending on what happens this summer with LeBron James. That is a major question mark for the whole Eastern Conference. Where does he go? Because he takes the balance of power with him.
He certainly does, and I don't know if he stays, but I think, honestly, a lot of that also works with Paul George, and if he decides to stay in Oklahoma City or not. I do think LeBron ends up staying in the East, but we can have that conversation another time. Looking here at the NBA playoffs in the cheap seats, Christian Heimall along with Max Wolpoff on this Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spreaker.com. You can tell us how awesome we are or how bad I am. Whatever you feel like doing, just let us know. Criticism's good. We need that to improve. Also go to thephmedia.com. You can check out our store there. Buy some awesome Cheap Seats gear. My Cheap Seats coffee mug sitting here next to me, which I love. A lot of fun there. And then, of course, go to our Facebook page, The Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Vote on our poll question, does officiating change during the postseason? Max and I agree that it does. You can also follow Max on Twitter. Max, if you want to tell the fine folks how.
Yes, sir. MAX_WOLPOFF. It's a good one.
Oh, that pesky underscore. And then you can find me at Chris Heimall, ChrisHeimall. We're sans underscore there on that one. Max, switching over to the Western Conference, you've got what seems to be a foregone conclusion in Houston and Golden State, especially after the way they've kind of beat up on New Orleans and Utah. Is there even really a reason why we should be bothering with the Western Conference right now and just waiting until it gets to Houston, Golden State?
I mean, it's gonna be maybe entertaining, but I mean, it should be interesting to see if either Utah or New Orleans shows up and whether they can get one, maybe 2 games.
Yeah.
But the NBA playoffs, for the first time in a long time, really, have been competitive game in, game out. And that's good. That's healthy for the playoffs because even as close as last year, Charles Barkley was on the intermission shows basically saying, guys, this sucks. I'm going to go watch hockey.
Yep.
Wake me up when the finals come. But past that, this doesn't matter. It was a coronation walk for the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers make it to the finals. This year, I'm expecting something a little different, and it's good. It's healthy to have these things, but at the same time, oh boy, it's hard not to look ahead to Houston, Golden State. Oh,
yeah,
that's
I know. It's going to be difficult, and a lot of folks are wondering, say that again?
Right into the veins. It's going to feel so good.
and a lot of folks are going to be wondering, if DeMarcus Cousins was healthy, how would this help New Orleans? The game that's going to matter most to me is going to be Game 3, Friday night, because that's when both of these, that's when Utah and New Orleans finally get to go home. And if they're able to take a game at home, that's kind of what matters most. If you get one of those games in your own building, you can extend the series a little bit, get yourself some confidence, see what happens. So that's going to be where I really kind of look at it coming up this Friday for both Utah and Houston. Of course, later on tonight, you've got the Celtics, no NBA games tonight. That's weird. Interesting. No NBA games tonight. So you got a lot of hockey you can watch. That's good. You just hang out and watch hockey. Not have to worry about it. Good for you guys. That's going to be the fun part here. As we look ahead, Max, coming up just a little bit, we're going to get our Wild and Weird Wednesday stuff. We're also going to touch on some Major League headlines. And Patriots fans, Max, I know you're in the middle of all of them over there in Boston, but they can finally relax. They can finally...
I regret to inform you they have not relaxed.
Well, they need to, and everything will be just fine. They can shut up now. So, and just wait until the end of... Wait till training camp.
I regret to inform you they will not do that.
All right. Well, we'll figure it all out coming up just a little bit. This is The Cheap Seats on Public House Media Network.
This is Sam Kirby, host of Cinema Stories here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Cinema Stories, where we hang out and just talk movie and TV news and reviews, and it's awesome. A new show comes out every single Tuesday. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Cinema Stories. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Welcome back in the Cheap Seats. Christian Heimall, Max Wolpoff with you this Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018. We've talked a lot of playoffs, so we'll move on and talk about sports that aren't at the postseason just yet, maybe even ones that aren't even at the preseason just yet. Max, I don't care what you say. Patriots fans need to calm down. Tom Brady is going to be back. He said he will. Gronkowski's going to be back. You drafted an offensive lineman in the first round, which was smart. You drafted a running back, who will be very good, which was smart. Patriots fans can calm the F down.
Well, that doesn't mean they will. This is a city that basically will not be calm until the final whistle blows or the final horn goes for the championship game, even if the team isn't in it. And even then, it's stress about the offseason. Even then, it's stress about the draft. It's stress about the trades and whether or not they're actually going to trade Tyler Seguin. Oh, wait, they actually did that. Thanks a lot, Peter Schiarelli. Sports never rests. The sports section is the number one section. Everything else can kind of go by the wayside day in, day out. Day in, day out, the sports section is what drives sales of every single thing in the city. Sports are the lifeblood of Boston. And what's one of those sports that just will always be there and always seems to just get people riled up? The Patriots. They're always page news. Always.
I know, but Brady's back. That's all that really matters to Pats fans. At least that's all it should right now, and then we'll worry about the other stuff when we get there. You should be more upset that you let Danny Amendola go, but whatever. Julian Edelman's healthy, so who cares?
Don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
Right, exactly. A couple other headlines. NFL saying that it will not eliminate kickoffs this year, but try to find ways to make them safer. I mean, I don't really care. I like the kickoff. I don't think it needs to, go away, but that's just me.
It's one of those things. It's a player safety thing. Players are injured more on kickoffs than I think on any other play in football. I can understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, they're literally ripping off the XFL here in their pitch.
Yeah,
the XFL,
I know.
Let's see if we can eliminate kickoff. Should we eliminate halftime? And steadily, all the things that the XFL pitched, the NFL is saying, yeah, cool, thanks. Control-C, Control-V.
Right.
Just copy and paste.
Right, but the question is, what's the most exciting play in the NFL? It's a kickoff return. So why are you going to get rid of that? Remember, the Super Bowls where the onside kick? Sean Payton had an onside kick coming out of halftime in the Super Bowl.
Which was a very gutsy move. And
it was awesome.
Everyone deserves to applaud him for that. That was amazing.
But if we're gonna eliminate kickoffs, we're gonna eliminate that? It's just bad. I don't get it. I don't like it. So fortunately, they're not going to get rid of it yet. I'm fine with making it safer. Go for it. Do it. All that good stuff. Fine. Major League Baseball, you've got teams that are on an absolute tear right now, teams that I don't like that are on an absolute tear right now, and just playing really, really good baseball at the moment here. The Red Sox are finally, it seems like they're getting it back together after a really bad struggle last week. The Yankees finally had their win streak snapped on Monday night, but you're looking at the Astros, who are doing well. The Mets are still somehow winning. The Braves are doing really, really well. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates and Milwaukee Brewers are still playing well. And Max, I mean, you got all these teams all over the place. I know it's May. I understand that. We've only been playing for about 4 or 5 weeks right now. But there's just good baseball being played in a lot of different cities.
There's intriguing baseball, and especially early in the season and into the summer when baseball becomes the only major sport on television, intriguing is the main thing you want to go for here. Just get the baseball into the minds of people early on. And, I mean, if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers and you've just lost Corey Seager, oh, boy, it does not sound good.
Especially when you're already, a couple games under 500.
Yeah, you already aren't doing so well this season. You lose one of your top players to Tommy John surgery. It's a hard blow. It's a hard pill to swallow. But I can see where there might be hope and optimism for certain teams at the bottom, like the Washington Nationals, who faltered to start the year, the Mets, who have been on a tear. There's huge optimism, even for teams like the Atlanta Braves, who just recalled Ronald Acuna. This is an exciting time to be a baseball fan. It's fun to watch again. And any team, any given night, even the San Francisco Giants, they were getting blown out. Let's have Pablo Sandoval pitch. Oh, wait, he actually did a pretty decent job.
Love it. And then you got a kid like Tyler Kingman for Pittsburgh, who in his debut almost throws a no-hitter, which was awesome. So, again, you're right. Yeah, maybe intriguing baseball is the right way to put it instead of really good baseball, because we know it's going to change. We know the cream will rise. As they like to say. So, but it's just a lot of fun to watch baseball. This is my sport, and so it's just fun to sit here every single day and watch a somewhat decent game no matter what. Real quick before we get to our wild and wacky headlines, I'm a little ashamed that I completely forgot about this until Max was putting things together for today and mentioned it to me. But it's Derby week, Max. It's Kentucky Derby week. And this is one of the greatest spectacles in sports. If you've never been to Churchill Downs, put it on your bucket list. It is a lot of fun. It's a great place. It's beautiful. And while I'm not huge into horse racing, I am one of those guys that likes to put on his expert hat as we get to these Triple Crown races and try to tell you who's going to win. So,
come on, who doesn't?
Right, exactly. And you've got so many horses here this week. Like it's unbelievable how many we're going to have possibly racing. But I always look at one of those things. One of the things that I look at is the trainer and the jockey. That's what I always look at. And looking here at this year, when I look at some of them, the ones that I always look at are oh my goodness, what is his name? Velasquez. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. Say again.
Victor Velasquez?
Victor, yes. He's one of the better jockeys. He's awesome. As is Calvin Burrell, who of course became famous a few years ago when he had the jockey Triple Crown. But this is just a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Unfortunately, I'm going to be I'm going to be working, so I won't be able to watch. But
it's John Velasquez. My bad.
John Velasquez, yes. John Velasquez. But still, it's still one of those more really fun, exciting times.
It's always fun to watch, especially when it comes down to the amount of people it takes to put the Derby on. I think this is a 2-minute sporting event, and yet there are hours upon hours of pre-race shows. There are focuses on the fashion, on the celebrities who are there, on the weather conditions. There are focuses on the hats, the mint juleps. There are packages made about how to train a horse. There are packages about how to sell a horse, how to buy a horse, how to name a horse. Every single year, the NBC consistently, out of the park, cleans it up every single time with the Derby. It is one of the best packaged sporting events in television history, and it's only a 2-minute event.
Exactly. Yeah, it's literally a week for 2 minutes. It's incredible. It's a lot of fun to watch. So I'm not going to sit here and make any picks, although I do like the name Audible for some reason. Maybe it's because we're radio.
Yeah, we're radio. I think they're also. I think they were sponsored by the Amazon company.
Of course, that makes sense.
Okay. Also, Christian, I got one thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
How many mint juleps do you think you can drink?
Like when? Like in my lifetime or like in an hour?
Like during a Derby day. How many do you think you can drink? Just I'm curious.
I'm gonna go. I'll be out because I'm a huge bourbon guy. I like bourbon a lot, and my favorite bourbon is Woodford Reserve, which is the official bourbon of this year's Kentucky Derby. I'm going to say I could probably put down about 12.
Holy cow. Wow. Yeah,
I wouldn't remember doing it, but I could probably do it.
You are about right on average because the drinking starts when you get in the door and the drinking doesn't stop when you leave. It's a party atmosphere every year. It's one of the top events I want to see in my lifetime in person because every year I watch, and to quote one of my friends, I'm not that interested in horse racing. I just like the prospect of rich people losing money in 90 seconds.
It's definitely interesting, and I've seen the Derby from up in the suites, and I've seen it from down in the grandstands with all the quote unquote regular people. So, but yeah, so it's a lot of fun. I do enjoy the Derby quite a bit, and excited to see it this weekend. Maybe at least watch the highlights of it. All right, he's Max. I'm Christian. We are in the Cheap Seats on Public House Media. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spreaker.com. You can also find us on thephmedia.com, where you can buy some awesome Cheap Seats gear. Also, head to our Facebook page, Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Vote on the poll question, do you think officiating changes in the postseason? Follow Max on Twitter at Max_Wolpoff, WOLPOFF. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Heimall, CHRISHEIMALL. Time for our Wild Wednesday, where we find the weirdest and strangest stories that we've seen in sports. Max, I'm just going to start here because it's been a while since this has happened, but I had to get it off my chest. I know there was a lot of good and a lot of awesome moments from the NFL draft this past weekend. So many kids getting their chance to play in the NFL. Shaquem Griffin getting drafted by his brother's team, the Seahawks. Ryan Shazier actually walking out to deliver the Steelers' pick was awesome. But we're getting a little too ridiculous with the guest announcers for picks.
How ridiculous are we getting?
Oh, like intergalactically crazy. It's bad. The San Francisco 49ers on day 3, rounds 4 through 6, Ron Howard, Chewbacca, Stormtroopers, and R2-D2 were making picks for the San Francisco 49ers.
Come again?
Wait. It gets better.
How?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a parrot, delivered one of their picks. Yeah. Yeah. A parrot delivered their picks. Now listen. The men's Olympic gold medal winning curling team delivering the pick for Minnesota, that was kind of cool. I'm trying to think here. Let's see. You got all these Hall of Famers. But at the same time, there was some stupid moments. Like I said, you got Star Wars guys and a parrot delivering that. And then you had David Akers, a kicker, trying to troll the Dallas Cowboys. Dude, number one, first off, he was funny, so okay, fine. But you're a kicker, shut up and kick the ball. And number 2, you played on some really bad Eagles teams. You don't get to troll the Cowboys just because when the Eagles didn't have you and you weren't in the NFL, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. You don't get to do that. That was really, really dumb. Funny, but really, really dumb. And so between David Akers being very, very weird, Star Wars characters, and a parrot drafting guys into the NFL, yeah, the NFL draft gets my vote for a Wild Wednesday.
I got a question for you. How bad do you think the players feel that, yeah, I was the guy drafted by a parrot?
I don't know, because I don't even know who the guy was. I just know that it was a parrot.
And again, that takes too much of the focus away from what the draft is about. It's about the people that are being drafted. It's not about trying to create a social media buzz. I mean, I think there's just a saturation of that. They're all trying to do the same sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the same time, it ruins that thing.
Yep. What do you got here, sir?
All right. So I am going international for this one. I have found a story from Turkey that I think you're going to like, Christian. So there's a fan of his Turkish soccer team, Deniz Lizipor, and he was banned from the home team's stadium for 1 year. It's not immediately known why he was banned, so I'm not going to speculate on that. However, for the match on April 28th, he decided to rent a crane and lift himself over the seats to watch the game. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So, okay, he had to sign a paper to the police saying, I will not be in the stadium watching the match. So he got that into the police. Then he went and rented a crane for about 70 euros, lifted himself over the seats so he technically wasn't in the stadium, and he just watched the game.
This dude is my hero. This dude legitimately is my hero. That's amazing.
That takes dedication to a brand new height, literally and figuratively. I mean, what a guy. Ali Demir Kaya, you are a legend. You, sir, are in good service to sports fans everywhere. We salute you.
That was awesome. That's well done. That's how you do a Wild Wednesday, sir. That's funny. That's great. I love it. All right, big pleasure being back here on this Wednesday. Jeff will be back next week. He had to, he's a professor. He's got to, it's finals. He's got to, do stuff and help kids and whatnot. You got finals coming up, right?
Yeah, I got one. It's psychology. So you're actually lucky. I will have not studied the night before the test because I forbid myself from doing that.
I like that. Very, very good.
I study the week before, the night before. I watch a funny movie. I wake up early. I get breakfast. I work out. Then I go. I don't even look at the material again until the test because if I don't know it, I don't know it.
Attaboy. I like that. That's a good philosophy there. That's Max Wolpoff. I'm Christian Heimall. We thank you guys so much for joining us here this week. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page, The Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Vote on the poll question, do you think officiating changes in the postseason? You can follow Max on Twitter at Max_Wolpoff, WOLPOFF. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Heimall, ChrisHeimall. Subscribe, Apple, Google, as well as Spreaker.com. Don't forget to check out DPHmedia.com as well. For Max, I'm Christian. We thank you guys so much for being here, joining us on the Public House Media Network all the way up in the cheap seats.